It took me over 15 years to learn the secrets to getting the physique of your dreams. But I'll teach you everything I know in this video. I used to think that transforming my body was impossible, especially when I got to my 20s and 30s. All the fitness pros and bodybuilders had physiques that seemed out of reach, and everything seemed complicated and difficult. Well, it turns out that things aren't as complex as they seem. I figured out a simple and sustainable way to transform my body, and I'm going to show you how in this video. But first, here's some context about my background. I grew up in a very typical Asian household, and my parents loved feeding me because they wanted to see me chubby and therefore prosperous looking. It's a very Asian thing. I would eat everything, especially junk food. I loved fast food and was always choosing to have a burger or fries or soda for my meals. On top of that, I loved instant noodles, and every day I would have one bowl for supper. It was no wonder I got fat. This continued until I was a teenager, and then I started getting attracted to girls. That was a point of time in my life where I got the realization that I was a lot chubbier than my friends. It made me feel very self-conscious, and I made the decision to lose weight. Unfortunately, I didn't know anything about diet or nutrition, only what was told to me by my parents, and I did it in the worst possible way. I starved myself through dieting. I basically reduced my food intake drastically, especially refusing to eat any carbohydrates. This was a miserable process, but because I was hell-bent on reducing my weight, I actually managed to stick through the process. After several months, I managed to actually lose weight, but it came at a cost. I had turned myself from fat to scrawny. I could actually see abs at this point, but it was only because I was so thin. Although I had lost most of the fat, I didn't actually have the physique that I wanted. This continued for several years until I decided to put in a lot of time and effort into educating myself in terms of diet, nutrition, and workout. This year is 2024, and I'm turning 40. I'm finally at a point where I'm very much more satisfied with my physique. I now know the information that I can take advantage of so that I can eat whatever I want and still maintain the physique that I desire. And it's not just for aesthetics. I love activities like snowboarding and longboarding, and I need a high level of fitness to be able to enjoy these activities properly. There were 4 main key areas that I discovered that changed my body forever. 1. Knowing your destination. It's really hard to get to a destination unless you know very clearly what the destination is. So the first thing to understand is what you want to achieve in terms of your fitness. This is important because with every goal comes compromise and sacrifice. There's no two ways about it. Therefore, you need to be absolutely clear about these 2 things. Number 1, what you want, and number 2, what you need to change and let go of. For example, my goal is to look lean and muscular, but not overly packed with muscle. This is a sustainable and achievable goal for me, especially since I know what it takes for me to get a much bigger frame. A bigger frame means eating a lot more, working out more, watching my macronutrients more closely, and overall spending more time and effort. I am not willing to change my lifestyle by that much, nor sacrifice things like freedom, flexibility of choices, and my social life in order to have a much bigger physique. Which brings me to the second part, understanding your food intake. Point number 2, food intake. If you look at pro bodybuilders, they have impressive physiques, but they also have serious lifestyle habits that support that physique. I'm talking about eating a lot and being very mindful of the calories and macronutrients or macros that they consume. So you might be asking yourself what a calorie is. Calories are basically just a unit of measurement that measure the amount of energy that the food you consume have. To maintain body mass, which basically means keeping you looking the way you are, you need a certain amount of calories. This is known as your maintenance calories. Now, everything in food has calories. Just as an example, a McDonald's cheeseburger has 263 calories, and a can of Coke has 139 calories. The Rock, for example, is a massive guy. He has to eat 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day. And he regularly posts about his cheat meals, which he can definitely afford in terms of calories, because his mass requires so many calories to maintain. At 6,000 calories, that's at least the equivalent of 22 McDonald's cheeseburgers every single day. Chris Bumstead, or CBUM, is a 5-time Mr. Olympia Classic Physique champion, winning 5 consecutive titles from 2019 to 2023. His maintenance calories are around 5,203 calories. That means eating at least 19 McDonald's cheeseburgers equivalent of food every day. But calories aren't the only thing that matters. There are 3 main macronutrients: carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. My mistake when I was younger was to not understand what role each macronutrient played. I was even demonizing certain macros like carbohydrates and fats because of what I heard from people around me. Once I started looking into macronutrients more, I started becoming overwhelmed again. Again, this wasn't ideal for me because I didn't want to analyze every single meal that I was eating. I realized that in order to reach my fitness goal, I only needed to prioritize one macronutrient: proteins. I've simplified my food intake into just 2 numbers that I have to be mindful of. My calories, putting me in a very slight surplus, which is 2,000 calories per day, and my protein intake, which is 150 grams per day. I get my ideal protein intake by eating the equivalent of my body weight in pounds. I'm about 150 pounds or 69 kilograms, so that just means I should eat 150 grams of protein every day in order to give me enough to not just preserve existing muscle, but also to build more muscle. Point number 3, workout. Working out is the next part of the equation. You need to put in the work, but it's not as complex as I originally thought it should be. When I was starting to seriously get into weightlifting, I hired a personal trainer to help me. One of my lessons that I learned was that not every personal trainer is the same. The personal trainer whom I hired was a great guy and he was a champion bodybuilder himself. Unfortunately, I didn't get as much value as a personal training client. At that point of time, I was just starting on my weightlifting journey and I would rate myself somewhere between a beginner and intermediate. I didn't know any better at the time and made a commitment to stick with whatever program was given to me religiously. I even upped my workout days gradually, from 2 days in a week to 3, 4, and eventually 5 days in a week. When I was doing 5 workout days in a week, I was hitting 5 different body parts, 1 body part for every workout day. Now, that might be a great workout plan for another bodybuilder, but I realized that I wasn't making as much improvements in terms of muscle density and mass. It was only after a year that I realized that this was a bro split plan. The biggest issue with bro split plans was that I wouldn't be getting enough frequency of training a body part in a week. These days, my workout program is a lot more researched and thought through. I've considered every application and now I'm on a push, pull, legs routine, which suits me a lot better. The fundamental key of this decision is the increase in frequency from once to twice a week to maximize muscle growth. I won't go into the details of the workout program today, but I'll cover that in a future video if there's interest, so let me know with a quick comment down below. Point 4, recovery. Now this is something that I never understood the importance of when I was younger. When I was in my 20s, I felt invincible and had the false impression that sleep was for the weak. Unfortunately, that's about as far from the truth as possible. Here's a study. It's small and it's questionnaire based, so the results may not be as rigorous, but I think the important thing is the inference that we can make about the importance of sleep. Sleep is essential because the body produces the majority of its growth factors and hormones that aid in daily muscle repair and recovery. The only way this happens is if you're getting enough sleep every single night, which is typically about 7 to 9 hours. These days, I treat sleep as part of my daily routine versus in the past where I'll just stay up until I felt like I couldn't open my eyes anymore and then go to bed. Some ways that I found very helpful for this is to avoid screen time, which means no TV, no phones, and alcohol before bed, keeping my room at a cool temperature and ensuring the room is dark. I have an Apple Watch that I wear to sleep, and one of the things that I monitor when I wake up every day is my sleep quality. I always want to ensure that I have sufficient amount of sleep, and not only that, have sufficient amounts of quality sleep. These are my 4 core pillars that I use to transform myself to hit my dream physique. This is by no means the end of my journey yet, as I know I have much more to go, but hopefully this will be useful to some of you and help you along in your journey as well. If you have questions, drop them below in the comments and remember to subscribe to get updates when I put out more videos on improving your health and fitness. See you in the next video.